what the floors would look like. What colors would the walls be? What would the outside look like? Imagine every part of your dream home. Perhaps your dream house looked a little like this. This house recently sold for $275,000. Now, what if I told you that each semester the average college student is paying for the equivalent of a $275,000 house, but will not be owning that house anytime soon? Would you believe me? Let's take a look. According to the College Board, the average college student will pay $5,220 per semester just for housing. Now, if we divide that number by 4 months, it comes out to be about $1,300 per month. To make this comparable to a mortgage, we use the current interest rate of around 4% and calculate it out for 30 years. This turns out to be a $275,000 house. In other words, the average college student really is paying for that house, but isn't getting the $275,000 house. I am passionate about liberating people financially. That is my purpose, that is my cause, and that is my belief. And when I notice how much these college students are paying for housing, it just didn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem right to me that so many people are stuck financially. I realized that we had to do something different. And I noticed that since student housing costs are the second largest expense of a college education, it's also a major cause of student loan debt. These student housing costs are the chains holding millions of students captive. Those chains inhibit potential, and those chains prevent progress. They really limit the future for everyone. And to prove this point, let me tell you a story. I met Rachel at my first day of work at my new job. We were hired on at the same time at the local credit union. Right away, I noticed Rachel's work ethic and her determination. She left home and was making do with what she had. She was paying her way through college and was saving every penny that she could. She'd been a maid for a hotel. Later, she was a nanny for a family of 14. Yes, 14. She later got the job at the credit union. However, one thing surprised me. Rachel was obviously very determined to finish college, but one day, Rachel told me that she had to quit college for a semester. I asked her the reason why, and she said that she couldn't afford her housing costs. I asked her the reason why, and she said that because of the housing costs that were so substantial, she actually had to stay with her sister for that semester and could only take a couple of classes online. A similar circumstance happened a semester later. Rachel had saved up almost enough money to go back to college. The only thing holding her back was, once again, housing costs. Rachel learned that an apartment that she was interested in offered money for every friend referred. So she ended up referring 3 friends and saved $600. However, without those referrals, Rachel would have had to sit on the sidelines of college once again. The sad truth is that there are hundreds of thousands of students, just like Rachel, who are burdened down by student housing costs. Perhaps you have a friend or a family member who has been in the same bleak circumstance. Maybe you've been there yourself. Whoever it may be, we need to help these individuals and liberate those held captive. Now, we don't have to continue in the status quo. We can break the bands of debt. We can open the door of opportunity. And the solution, I believe, is through housing cooperatives. As I was working for Beehive Federal Credit Union, I had a thought. What if student housing worked like a credit union? What if those that lived there owned the apartment and pooled their resources together? Could this provide a solution to the student housing crisis? I began to do some research and found out that this idea is called a cooperative. Cooperatives have existed for nearly 200 years, and the cooperative movement is credited to the Rockdale Society of Equitable Pioneers. This co-op was established during the Industrial Revolution, and many of its members had been replaced by machines. They had lost their jobs. They had trouble providing for their families. So they decided to come together. they decided to pool their resources together, and they had a common goal. Their common goal was to provide a service rather than receive a profit. As they pulled their resources together, this gave the members financial leverage that they otherwise would not have had by themselves. This co-op also established principles that every other co-op follows today. And as I realized that, I wanted to see if those same principles could apply to housing and provide a solution. So I began searching for housing cooperatives that were already functioning. According to the New York Times, around 80% of the Manhattan real estate market are housing cooperatives. I also learned of the success of actual student housing cooperatives that are already functioning. Now, according to U.S. News, these percentages that I'm about to show you are what current students are saving at their respective universities through living at these student housing co-ops compared to regular housing. So let's take a look. At Idaho State University, 43%. At the University of Michigan, 49%. The University of California, 59%. And at the University of Florida, 76% savings. That's absolutely amazing. That's like going to your favorite store, finding something that you've been dying to get, and you find it for half off. What do? You buy it, of course. You can tell your spouse about it later. I'm sure they'd love to hear this story. But the reason is because it is such a great deal, and that's what these housing cooperatives can do. And not only can these housing cooperatives benefit students, but they can also benefit many other people who struggle financially due to high housing costs. This can solve financial crises for people around the world. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone has to live in a housing co-op. What I do believe, however, is that these co-ops, these cooperatives, are powerful vehicles in which we can liberate millions of people financially. And that is my purpose. That is my cause. That is my belief. And these housing co-ops are just one way to accomplish that belief because they can and do work. And since these housing co-ops are working, you may be wondering, what are the key components that allow them to provide housing at such a reduced cost? You may be wondering, how do they even work? Just think of a group of penguins. When the weather gets cold, the penguins huddle together, cooperating in order to survive. You know, this metaphor could be quite literal here in chilly Rexburg. I know some of you may agree with me on that one. But the same idea applies to co-ops. When everyone cooperates, everyone benefits. And that is the most essential idea. It's just a group of people coming together with a common goal to provide a service rather than receive a profit. And that's how these housing cooperatives begin to start. Just like in the Rockdale Pioneers example, these co-ops begin with a common goal in mind. They want to provide a service. They want to solve a problem. And so they form a nonprofit organization to start. And they select a piece of real estate where they'd like to live at. Now, funding for this property can be achieved through so many different ways. There are so many different grants that are available. And this is all done democratically, as everyone, as a member of the co-op, has a say. Once the property is purchased, shares of the co-op are purchased by the members. Now, this share is similar to a leasing agreement in a way. You don't actually own the physical space where you live. Rather, it gives you the right to live there and lets you be a member of the co-op. Once you're living at the co-op, you share the cost of living with the other members. Remember, it's to provide a service rather than receive a profit. These costs are not profit-driven as they are at other housing complexes. That's the difference. And as you share those costs of living with the other members, the possibilities of future improvements are also possible because that monthly cost that you have goes back into improving the co-op. All of that extra income goes back into benefiting the co-op and benefiting its members. So let's say that after a few years, you've saved up enough money to buy your own house. So you can sell your share of the co-op. This could be at a higher price than you bought it for, or it could be at a set price that the co-op has established. Either way, you end up recovering your initial investment, or it could even make a profit. Now, this is exactly why housing cooperatives are a powerful way to liberate people financially. They can elevate people's circumstances. They can take them from the lowest points in their life, and they can elevate them to higher places that they couldn't have even dreamed about. And that's what I believe in. I believe in helping those people because they're all around us, and they all need our help. Do you see the difference now? Do you see the difference of what the status quo is and where we could be? I hope that we can see that the benefits are possible, but they are only possible if we do something about it. We can't just sit here and say, well, that's a great idea. We have to take action. And there are so many ways that you too can be a part of this housing revolution. We can all be a part of this movement. You can learn more about housing cooperatives and educate yourself. You can find an existing co-op and be a part of the revolution. And also, we can create our very own cooperative right here, or wherever you might be, and you can make a difference in so many people's lives. We just have to come together and cooperate. Now, my hope is that you too will realize that change is possible. It is within our grasp. There are so many possibilities and so many people that we can help. We just have to do something about it. And many times we do nothing because we fear change. We fear our own potential. And to conclude, my hope with this last quote, this is one of my favorite quotes, and I hope that this quote will spark and ignite the fire in your hearts so that you too can make a difference, because you really can. You can make a difference and can liberate people financially in any way, really. So to conclude, I want to share with you a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Now, he was a man that knew about revolutions all too well. And he said, quote, "All mankind is divided into 3 classes: those that are immovable, those that are movable, and those that move." Close quote. Now, my question to you tonight is, are you a person that moves? Thank you.